in the complex where you live? Yeah.
The commission will come to order. This is a meeting of the New Hampshire Ballot Law Commission that is held according to statute within a requisite time after the filing period for the presidential primary is held to entertain any objections or questions about those candidates that the Secretary of State proposes to put on the ballot and considers the Secretary's decision to include people or conversely to exclude people. And folks have a chance to question the inclusion or exclusion of candidates. Before we begin, I'd like to, for the education of those in attendance, nominate my right to have the members of the commission and our attorney identify ourselves so you know who the characters are.
I'm Margaret Ann Moran.
Jane Clemens.
I'm Brad Cook, Chairman.
Jameson French.
Marty Van Ute.
James Buffetti, I'm counsel to the Ballot Law Commission.
And we'll have the people from the Secretary of State's office identify themselves.
I'm David Scanlon, Deputy Secretary of State.
Karen Ladd, Assistant Secretary of State.
Ma'am Navageorge, counsel to the Secretary of State.
All right, we have 4 matters before us today, and we have been asked as a courtesy because we have people who've traveled here from California and have to, at least one person has to get on a plane to entertain the complaint of Dr. Orly Taitz, and if I pronounce these things wrong, I apologize, first, so that she can be accommodated to get on a plane afterwards. So with that, the complainant can go.
Thank you. Good day, Chairman Cook, Ms. Moran, Ms. Clemens, Mr. French, and Ms. Van Ute, and the council. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to appear before you and talk about this issue of monumental importance to the country as a whole. As I traveled here from the state of California, I noticed a big plaque not far from this building stating that the state of New Hampshire was held presidential primaries since 1920 as the first state to vet the candidates. And the citizens of the state of New Hampshire take this honor very seriously. And this issue requires the most serious considerations because we have issues of felonies, such as forgery of documents, authoring of forged documents, elections fraud, and social security fraud that were committed in application that was submitted to you by a candidate, Mr. Barack Obama. I have started investigation of this issue nearly 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, probably no such complaint was provided to you because there wasn't enough information at the time, though a lingering question remained. Why Mr. Obama refused to show his original birth certificate? And after 3 years of investigation, and only a few days before a hearing of my case in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, Mr. Obama released something that he claimed to be a certified copy of his original birth certificate. Yet, he refuses to allow the public to see the original. I have traveled not only to the beautiful state of New Hampshire, I also traveled to the beautiful state of Hawaii a number of times. And I served a federal subpoena upon the Director of Health of the state of Hawaii, stating if Mr. Obama presented what he claims to be a certified copy, why are they refusing to show the public the original? And the state of Hawaii is, in my opinion, engaging in obstruction of justice, refusing to allow the public to see the original birth certificate. But that's only a small part of the problem. As I started investigating this issue, 3 years ago, I received reports from a recently retired officer of the Department of Homeland Security, Mr. John Sampson, from a licensed investigator certified with the Department of Homeland Security, and that's in your packets, Susan Daniels, as well as a former elite, former office of elite group with Scotland Yard dealing with anti-organized crime and anti-communist proliferation, Mr. Neil Sankey, all stating the same thing, that according to national databases, they show several social security numbers associated with the name of Mr. Obama. Not one single number was issued in the state of Hawaii, where he resided at a time when he started working and got his social security number. Moreover, for most of his life, Mr. Obama used a Connecticut social security number, a number that was issued in and around March of 1977. At the time, Mr. Obama was 16 years old, resided in Hawaii, did not travel to the state of Connecticut, and there is no evidence of him ever being a resident of Connecticut. The law in 1977 stated that the social security numbers were assigned according to residence, place of residence of an individual who submitted his application, according to where application was submitted. And if that application was submitted in Connecticut, Mr. Obama was nowhere near Connecticut. Moreover, we have found out that in national databases, there are several birth dates associated with this number. One birth date states 1890, and two other birth dates state 8/4/1961 and 4/8/1961. Now, 8/4 and 4/8 might signify that the birth date of Mr. Obama was written in an American style and European style. August 4, as you know, in Europe, they write their date first and then months. But what about 1890? I also found out that in and around 1977, elderly individuals who never applied for Social Security numbers applied en masse because there were changes by the Social Security Administration around 1976, 1977, which required individuals to have their own Social Security numbers in order to get certain benefits. So there was no connection. I have contacted Mr. Obama repeatedly, his office, his attorney, Social Security Administration. I worked on this 24/7, 1961, because it is so important for this nation as a whole to have a legitimate president. We have so many problems today. We need to know that the person who is in the helm of this country, who is leading our military, whose finger is on this right button of nuclear weapons, has proper identification papers. Further on, I found something else that was interesting. Last year, in April of 2010, when Mr. Obama released his tax returns, he did not flatten a PDF file. What does it mean? It means that if anybody downloads the file and opens it in a program called Adobe Illustrator, he can see all the changes made to that file. And what we were able to see is Mr. Obama's full Social Security number. And we could see that in his tax returns, even today, he is using the same Connecticut Social Security number that we found previously, according to affidavits that you have from investigators and from senior deportation officer from Department of Homeland Security. I personally went to official website, sss.gov, and that's elective service website, where you can put a person's name, his birth date, and his Social Security number, and see if there is a match. If he signed up to selective service based on that Social Security number. And sure enough, I entered Barack Obama, I entered August 4, 1961, and I entered this Connecticut Social Security number, which is 042684425, and it showed that indeed Mr. Obama used this number in order to sign up for selective service. So at this point, I have two governmental records, his tax returns and selective service, showing him using this Connecticut Social Security number. Further on, I received an affidavit from one Linda Jordan, who ran this number through E-Verify, and it showed no match. This number was never sent to Barack Obama. Another interesting fact, I received an email and a letter from a U.S. Army officer, Colonel Gregory Hollister, who in parallel did similar research. He went to selective service, and you have the documents from Mr. Hollister in your packet. And he entered the same number, showing that Mr. Obama used this number for selective service. And then he went to SSNVS, which is Social Security Number Verification Service. And it showed that it states never issued to Barack Obama. We have an individual sitting in the White House who is using a Social Security number in multiple documents that was never assigned to him according to official U.S. Services such as E-Verify and Social Security number verification systems. This is crime in itself. It's a felony. Anybody else who would have been caught committing such felony would have been in prison for 18 to 24 months and deported. Typically, who are the people who resort to using Social Security numbers that were never assigned to them? Typically, people who do not have valid birth certificates. And that's why they have to resort to getting Social Security numbers of individuals, of other individuals. I also found out something interesting, that it looks like it runs in the family. In Mr. Obama's family, we found out recently, and it was in the papers, that Mr. Obama's aunt, Zituni Obama, is an illegal alien in this country.
Pardon me, is there any relevance of his family when we talk about him?
Yes, it shows that there is a pattern of behavior that we have 3 members of the same family illegally using.
I think I'm going to rule that we restrict your testimony to President Obama and not to hands on his income.
Okay. What I would like to point out, if I may, we will not talk about Zitunia Obama, Anyaga Obama, but what is interesting that Mr. Obama's grandmother used to volunteer in Oahu Circuit Court, and it's interesting where she chose to volunteer, in probate department. Probate department is where you get Social Security numbers of deceased individuals. And I was trying to understand how and where he could get this number. This is a mystery. This is bigger than Watergate. This is 100 times bigger than Watergate. We have a person sitting in the position of the president who is using a Social Security number that was never assigned to him. I did research 24/7, 365 for 3 years. And I found out yet another interesting fact. Mr. Obama's close friend and advisor is William Ayers, who, as you know, is a known domestic terrorist. I read his book, Fugitive Days, and he is describing how he created fraudulent Social Security numbers. He's stating that he went to cemeteries where he got names of infants who did not have Social Security numbers yet. In those years, Social Security numbers were assigned later in life. Then he would go to the city hall or county offices, county recorder's office, get their birth certificate numbers, and use those to get fraudulent Social Security numbers. He admits in this book, Fugitive Days, that he obtained over 100 such numbers in just 1 year alone, was never prosecuted. And this is something that needs to be examined further on. But that could have been another source for Mr. Obama's Social Security number. This mystery needs to be solved. But further on, as I saw that Mr. Obama does not have a valid Social Security number, I started investigating further the issue of birth certificate. Why For 3 years, he did not provide a valid birth certificate, a long-form birth certificate. And this year, in April 27 of this year, Mr. Obama finally posted online something that he claimed to be a certified copy of his birth certificate. Right away, I have received statements from experts showing that this is indeed a forgery. And you have this in your packets. I have provided information. This is part of your packet. You have Mr. Obama's tax returns with this Connecticut Social Security number that was never assigned to him. You have E-Verify stating that the number that he is using does not match the records. You have this information from Selective Service. Further, from SSMBS, saying that this number that he's using was never assigned to him. And, let me go to the next document. This is an affidavit that I submitted in your packet. This is an affidavit from Adobe Illustrator expert who stated that when Mr. Obama posted what he claims to be the true and correct copy of his birth certificate, he made the same mistake. Either he made the same mistake or somebody did it on purpose, hard to tell. But as they posted this birth certificate online, the file was not flattened. Again, we could see layers, and here we could see one of the layers. And you can see how we can actually see how this forgery was done. It's unbelievable. Here's the document, and you can see how they took the mother's signature, probably from later years, where she was signing Stanley N. D. Soetoro, and Soetoro was deleted, and then they used computer graphics to add Anna Obama, and that's how they came up with Stanley M. Dunham Obama. You can see how the numbers were added, and it is part of your packet. Next, you can see an affidavit from one Mr. Douglas Vaught. Mr. Vaught is an expert in scanning machines. As a matter of fact, we have somebody who is an expert here in the audience as well. And anybody, I mean, a child can see that this is a forgery, so poorly it is done. But when you look in your packets at the birth certificate, alleged copy of the birth certificate, you can see that different types of typesetting was used, different types of ink. Some is black, part was black ink, part was sort of a greenish ink. You can see part was done in black and white scan, part was from color scan. You can see, for example, here in his birth certificate, if you look at the word Barack, you can see letter R came from another document. This is not even a good forgery. This is cutting and pasting parts of documents, putting them together, and filling in the blanks with computer graphics. I have 3 kids. They could have done a better job, I'm pretty sure. And that's our president and commander-in-chief, in charge of all of our military. All of this information you have in your packets. Further on, I checked with a number of governmental agencies, and we do have a loophole. There is no background check for individuals who run for federal offices. If you run for Congress, if you run for Senate, if you run for president, there is no official background check or FBI check. It's interesting that in order to be a janitor in the White House, you have to go through background check. But in order to be the president of the United States, you do not have to go through the background check. Therefore, it is up to the states to decide. And aside from the fact that Mr. Obama does not have any valid identification papers. And to put him on the ballot, if you decide to put him on the ballot without, in light of all of this evidence of forgery and fraud and social security fraud and elections fraud, without seeing the original birth certificate on file, without seeing this original application for Connecticut Social Security number on file, you will be complicit. You will be criminally complicit to forgery, to uttering of forged documents, of the most egregious elections fraud ever committed against this nation and people of this nation. And you will be complicit to Social Security fraud, but moreover, you might be complicit to treason, because this is a person who has no valid identification papers. We're seeing gaps in his life history everywhere. Just one small example. I have here, I got registration, Mr. Obama's college registration, college verification papers. In all of his biographies and memoirs, he states that he studied at Columbia University for 2 years. He was a resident of the state of New York for 2 years. If you go to Student Clearinghouse, and I have the document here, and I will provide it to you in a moment. Here it is. I contacted National Student Clearinghouse, and what did I find out? That Mr. Obama attended Columbia University from September 1st, date of attendance, September 1st, 1982, until May 31st, 1983, only 9 months. And the question is, how did he get a diploma from Columbia University, attending it only for 9 months? Why is he lying about his whereabouts during another year and 3 months? Where was he? We have an individual where we don't know who he is. We don't know where he resided. What did he do during this time? I found out in one of his speeches that before he started Columbia University, Mr. Obama traveled to Pakistan. And he is claiming that he was there only for a couple months over summer, and he started Columbia in September of '81. Clear lines. We have this student clearinghouse. So there is no record of him being anywhere else in the country during this year, which means that he was in Pakistan not for a month or two, but over a year. What was he doing there? And why is he hiding it? And why is he lying to us? Ladies and gentlemen, in your hands is national security of the United States of America. You cannot entrust national security of the United States of America to an individual who does not have a valid birth certificate, does not have a valid social security number, who is lying about his whereabouts, lying about his education, and we know nothing about him. We don't even know what is his legal name, because as I checked his records from the state of Illinois, his law license, in his law license, in his law license application, he states, first question, what is your name? Barack Obama. Did you use any other name? He states no. And he signs under penalty of perjury. And his records from Indonesia show that he went by name Suharto, not Obama. And in his mother's passport, he's listed under name Suharto. How can we have a president of the United States where records show him using 3 different last names? There is no record of him ever legally changing his name from Suharto back to Obama, if he ever was Obama, and who is lying under penalty of perjury about his prior last names, saying he had only one, while in reality he had 3 last names. These are most important issues, and I hope that you will not be complicit in all of the crimes that are being committed here. And one last point. From birth, Mr. Obama has allegiance to other nations. As you know, his father was a citizen of Great Britain when he was born, as Kenya was a British colony. When he was 2 years old, December 12, 1963, as Kenya became an independent nation, he became the citizen of Kenya, and when he was about 5 years old, he became the citizen of Indonesia. Now, if you read the definition of requirements for U.S. president, has to be natural-born citizen. If you read the writings of the founders of this nation, letters by John Jay, the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, to George Washington, stating, and I'm paraphrasing here, permit me to explain that the President Commander-in-Chief should be a natural-born citizen. We should not have foreigners. And as you know, the first presidents were grandfathered because, of course, they were born before the nation was created. But later on, we had to have natural-born citizens. We should not have foreigners. Well, according to his father's citizenship, Mr. Obama was foreign at birth. And this issue of split allegiance was not taken by any elections board yet. We have a precedent, we have a case, Minor v. Happersett, where Supreme Court stated natural-born citizen is one who is born to parents who are citizens. His father is not a citizen. We have writings of Amar Devatel, who is a famous diplomat and scholar, whose book, Law of Nations, was a prototype, a basis for our Constitution that states natural-born citizen is one who born to parents, citizens of the country. And finally, 14th Amendment, John A. Bingham, who is the founder and father of the 14th Amendment, his writings reflect his thinking and his statements in that natural-born citizen is one who is born in the country, in the U.S. territory, to parents who do not owe allegiance to other sovereignties. Mr. Obama, from birth until today, owes allegiance to 3 other sovereignties that we know of, maybe more, who knows. And lastly, just recently, in 2008, before the election, the question rose in regards to Mr. McCain's citizenship. And as you know, there was a decision, Senate Resolution 511, where the same two-pronged test was used to find Mr. McCain to be eligible, and Senator Leahy pronounced that Senator McCain was eligible because he was born in the zone of Panama Canal, which was at a time U.S. territory, and to 2 parents who were U.S. citizens. And as we can see, from the time this nation was founded until today, the same two-pronged test was used. So even if Mr. Obama we have a serious issue of his allegiance to other sovereignty and his foreign citizenship. The state of New Hampshire is a live free or die state. And I hope that this committee will let us live free from fraud, from forgery, from treason. This is a granite state, and I hope you will show the strength of the will of granite, of the live free and die state, and you will decide that Mr. Obama cannot be on the ballot due to the fact that he does not have any valid identification papers and he is not eligible. In the alternative, if you decide that you cannot make a definite permanent decision, at the very minimum, it is your constitutional duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire and legislative law, and at the very minimum, it is your duty to come up with a provisional decision that Mr. Obama cannot be on the ballot in the state of New Hampshire until he provides access and until this committee and experts examine his original birth certificate on file in Hawaii, until the application to the Connecticut Social Security number 042684425 is examined by the committee, and this mystery is resolved. And until there is a definition on the issue of whether a person with foreign citizenship from birth can be considered a natural-born citizen. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Remember the, have any questions? I've got a couple.
Sure.
You've obviously done a lot of work on this subject and feel very passionately about it. You mentioned a Court of Appeals case in California. Was there ever a decision in that?
Not yet. You know, I think everybody is afraid to make a decision.
No, that just, you answered the question. Have you raised the Social Security number issue with the Social Security Administration?
Yep, and they're stonewalling, just like the state of Hawaii.
As to the Columbia University attendance, have you contacted Columbia University?
Columbia University is a private university. I did write to them, had no answer.
You looked in their alumni directory?
If they don't allow you to get the paperwork, but even if I were to look at the alumni directory, he could be an alumni. But this needs to be explained because according to this document, he was there only for 9 months and not 2 years as he is claiming.
Is there any decision anywhere by anybody, not person, but any adjudicatory body, on the questions that you're asking? Because they've been asked a lot of places. Has anybody made a determination on this that affirmatively says that President Obama was not born in the United States, is not a citizen of the United States?
No.
No, thank you.
Sir, you don't need to come up with a decision that he was not born in the United States. You need to come up with a decision that he is a natural-born citizen, and you have no evidence to decide that he is a natural-born citizen. You have no evidence to decide that he is even a citizen. It is not the other way around. You cannot throw the ball into our court to kind of pass the buck. No. It is upon you to decide that he is a natural-born citizen, that you have evidence showing that he is a natural-born citizen. And at the very minimum, you have evidence showing that he has no papers. And therefore, it is your duty to order discovery, to see the original birth certificate in Hawaii, to see the original application, to decide on whether a foreigner can be a citizen. And if you are forfeiting this duty, if you are derelict in this duty, then you are de facto criminally complicit. Anytime.
Any further questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Do you have other witnesses?
I have here a number of state representatives who support me, who have submitted letters, faxed their letters stating that they would like to join in this complaint. And there are 6 state representatives in total that submitted such letters, and they would like to testify. Yes.
Well, do they have any substantive testimony on the issue as opposed to an opinion?
You can ask them.
Does anybody have factual evidence in addition to what Attorney Taitz has said that would help the commission? Not opinions, not rumors, not thoughts, but factual evidence. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dick Marple. My position in this is predicated on what was referred to by Ms. Taitz here, and that is the constitutional issue.
When people testify, she didn't need to be sworn in because she's an attorney. Attorneys, this may come as an irony to you, are already sworn to tell the truth, or as some wag once said, it doesn't make any difference. But everybody else needs to be sworn in. So before you testify, Dr. President,
Happy to.
All right, you swear the testimony you give before the commission to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So
I do, sir. You want me to step up? I can speak from here if you would.
You have evidence.
Yes, it's the Constitution, sir. And the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, is very specific. It states that we must respect the law of nations. The law of nations that existed then was that Kenya was a protectorate of the British Empire. And as such, the British Nationality Act states very clearly that if the father is the, in other words, let me put it this way, the father determines the status of its offspring. So in this case, Obama's father was a British subject. By law, the Law of Nations and the British Nationality Act, Mr. Obama was a British subject at birth. Now, what took place after that is not even germane to the issue because his father was a British subject, he is a British subject. The British Nationality Act is the controlling law of nations. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, we must respect the law of nations. End of report. That's how simple it is. Thank you.
Anybody else? Do you have? Yes, I need to be sworn in? Okay. My name is Terrence. I'm sorry. Testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. Okay, my name is Terrence Brennan. I would like to underscore some of the things that have already been said, but basically, I guess what I would add to it is that Mr. Obama has stated who his father is. His father was Barack Obama Sr. And there's no question in everything that I have read, I'm a layperson, that he was a British citizen. My understanding also is that the requirement of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, applies to only the President of the United States and no other office at any level in the country. That was specifically stated by the framers of the Constitution, and I would presume that they knew what they were doing because they did the rest of the Constitution beautifully. I think that the references to Vattel show their reasoning and why they made that requirement. For my part, I learned about that in the 3rd grade when I was going to school in Massachusetts. It was important then to teach me and the rest of the class as 3rd graders of that requirement of the Constitution. I recall that. And I think that at this point where that requirement needs to be applied in this situation where there's evidence yet to be determined whether Mr. Obama was even born in the United States or what his birth credentials actually are. I think this is an extremely important issue constitutionally, and I'd like to see the Constitution of the United States enforced. And, anybody else?
As far as evidence, I just concur with Orly. Harry Acanero, representing District 4 in Laconia.
Swear any testimony you'll give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. As an elected official, it is my duty to uphold the Constitution both of the United States and of New Hampshire. I have looked into this and agree with, and had spoken, looked at the website, found the information similar to what Orly Taitz had presented today. And it's our duty as legislators to be sure that the individual that we are putting on our ballot has the proper identification to be on that ballot. And the material that was presented here, that you have in your packets, should be overwhelming, because other courts do not have the courage to step up to the plate and rule on this decision. Should not bear on us. We need to step up to the plate and say, is this man allowed to be on our ballot? And every indication to me, and for what I researched, says no.
Anybody else, we can do this all at once. If anybody else wants to testify besides this lady, please stand up. All right. You swear the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
All right. State your name.
Aaron Sullivan. And I want to say that the Constitution is what makes America great. Without the Constitution, we don't even have a country. We have states, but we do not have a United States. All of us Americans are depending on you to stand up and do the right thing for all of us Americans who want to defend our Constitution and defend the United States of America. The gentleman back there who brought up the issue that Mr. Obama is a Kenyan citizen, if in fact Barack Obama is his father, is stating the absolute truth. He does not qualify to be President of the United States of America, and we are depending on you to stand up for our country and stand up for our Constitution.
It's Greg Goss from Hudson, New Hampshire. I am a natural-born citizen. 2 points. One, I would just like to point out that the 300+ million people in the United States of America and the United States of America itself is too big to fail. And right now we have somebody in the White House that's actually trying to destroy the United States of America, as demonstrated by his actions, not his words, his actions. Secondly, I'd like to point out, you asked the question, has a court made a decision? And Orly rightfully so said no. Those court decisions have all been dismissed for lack of standing. In other words, if I go to court and say, this guy isn't eligible to be president, then the court says to me, well, how will you be harmed by the decision whether he is or he isn't? And all of these cases have been dismissed for lack of standing, which we could get into that argument at some other time. But none of the court cases have been heard on their merits. Therefore, there has been no decision based on the merits. You as a committee have the right to look at the evidence presented and to allow or disallow somebody to be on the New Hampshire ballot. That's your obligation. Thank you. All right, there being nobody else who indicated they wanted to testify, Secretary of State ready to proceed?
I'd like to call Assistant Secretary of State Karen Ladd.
Swear the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, I hope you got.
Yes.
State your name.
My name is Karen Ladd. I'm Assistant Secretary of State.
Thank you, Ms. Ladd. Can you walk through what your job duties are with the Secretary of State's office?
I work in the Elections Division, and part of my duties are accepting filings for the candidacy for president.
And how did someone in the state of New Hampshire get on the presidential primary ballot? Can you explain what the requirements are, what the process is?
Right. Every candidate needs to file a declaration of candidacy as spelled out in the statute, RSA 65547, and pay a $1,000 filing fee.
And what statute is the $1,000 filing fee?
655:48.
And how are those statutes enacted, if you could just briefly?
They're enacted by the New Hampshire legislature.
Can you explain whether or not, let me rephrase that, were you aware of the filing for president, filing to be on the presidential primary ballot by President Barack Obama?
Yes.
And were you present when the declaration of candidacy was filed?
Yes. The declaration of candidacy was filed by Vice President Biden on October 20th. I have a copy of it here.
And I believe members of the commission do have a copy of that, with a copy of the checking. And did Vice President Biden bring something else to the Secretary of State's office that day besides the President's signed the declaration of candidacy?
He brought a check
And what was that check for the amount of?
for $1,000, which is the filing fee required.
And who accepted the declaration of candidacy when Vice President Biden came in?
He handed them to Secretary of State Gardner.
And then can you explain for the commission what the process is once those documents have been submitted? How you go from that point to the point of somebody's name appearing on the presidential primary ballot?
Well, once the declaration is filed, we make sure that the form is complete and the fee is paid and it complies with the law. And we move ahead with putting the name on the ballot.
And who makes that decision?
All final decisions are made by Secretary Gardner.
And have you had an opportunity to review the Declaration of Candidacy form filed by President Obama?
Yes.
And in your opinion, does it conform with the statutes that you reference, RSA 655-47 and RSA 655-48?
Yes.
And is this the same type form that President Obama would have filed 4 years ago when he ran for president?
Yes.
Do you have any other information with regards to how a person gets on a presidential primary ballot, particularly President Obama, that the commission would need to know?
No, it's just the form and the fee.
Does the form require that the candidates or potential candidates submit proof of their citizenship or a copy of the birth certificate?
No, it does not.
So all the other individuals who have filed to become president, whether it's on the Republican presidential primary ballot or the Democratic presidential primary ballot, have not had to show proof of citizenship or submit a birth certificate?
That's correct. I do not.
Are candidates required to submit or fill out their social security number on the Declaration of Candidacy forms?
No.
I'm going to ask you again, is there anything about President Obama's Declaration of Candidacy that does not comply with RSA 655-47?
No.
Is there anything with President Obama's $1,000 check that does not comply with RSA 655-48?
No.
And were both of these documents filed in person during the filing period this year?
Filed in person by Vice President Biden, yes.
I don't have any further questions. If the committee may have some questions.
I would like to cross-examine, please.
Go right ahead.
Good day, Ms. Wyatt. I'd like to ask you a question. I was born in the Soviet Union. If I were to bring to you a signed piece of paper saying that I'm qualified and I would give you a check for $1,000, would you put me on the ballot?
If you filled out the Declaration of Candidacy, and which is required by our state law, and paid the fee, if there were no challenges made.
Very good. So you stated if
Excuse
there
me,
were
I'm
no
taking-
challenges made. Now, if somebody were to come and state, Ms. Taitz is lying, she's committing fraud, and she is submitting a forged document, there is a challenge, what do you do then?
I would refer the question to our legal counsel,
And who's your legal counsel?
the Attorney General's office.
Is he here?
Attorney Mavridge, yes.
Are you the Attorney General?
Assistant Attorney General.
Okay. When
Let's understand that.
Okay. Okay, when you forwarded my complaint to the Assistant Attorney General that shows evidence of fraud and forgery, I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
Assistant Attorney General Matt Mavridge.
Mr. Mavridge, sorry, what did he do?
We presented it to the Ballot Law Commission for the
No, before the commission. You said that if somebody provides a challenge, is your challenge, saying there is fraud, there is forgery, what do? You said if there is a challenge, then you don't put on the ballot, right? You said if there is a challenge, you wouldn't put on the ballot, right? If there is a challenge, you go to your Attorney General. You provided this gentleman with 85-page complaint showing fraud and forgery. What did he do?
Commission have to ask him.
But he did not do anything. Basically covered it up, swept under the rug, right? Nothing was done by him, right? And that's your Assistant Attorney General of the state. You're really in good hands, are you? So what did you say? When you gave him this complaint, 85 pages showing fraud after fraud after fraud, forgery after forgery after forgery, what did he do about it? What did this man do about it?
Well, you can ask him what he did.
But did he give you any papers? Did he give you any papers saying you cannot put him on the ballot? Or did he tell you you can put him on the ballot? What was the response?
I think her
Well, before the
testimony was
commission.
that it was going to the Ballot Law Commission, which is perfectly appropriate thing when they can't.
Okay, so basically what you are saying, that your whole testimony means nothing. It meant nothing, because you said your testimony is good if
You're testifying.
I mean,
You're arguing.
Let me just understand. Let me clarify, sir. Can I please clarify?
But you can do that by asking questions and not
Yes.
making argument. Yes.
So what you said right now, that everything that you said to Mr. George, right? Sorry, to this gentleman, your whole testimony was not related to this case, because you said that's when there is no challenge. In this case, there is challenge. So everything that you were testifying with him right now does not relate to this case, right?
You don't know how to answer that.
Okay, let's do it in small portions. You were saying that Mr. Obama's application was good, or in general, application is good if the form is filled out and there is a check for $1,000 if there is no challenge, right?
I did say that.
Okay, and in this case, you got an 85-page complaint, a challenge, right?
And it's before this commission.
Okay, so basically, it was not decided yet. The commission needs to decide if there is a challenge, then the fact that he filled out a piece of paper and gave a check for $1,000 means nothing. You need to deal with the challenge,
That's why
right?
we're here.
Okay, thank you. No further questions?
So, you've testified, you're not counsel. Any further questions? Any?
No.
Well, there was a question, Mr.
No,
Chairman,
Mr.
relative
Markle.
to the check. The check is
Markle,
not
there is
lawful
no-
money.
There is no question about the check. That's another case.
Well, that's the issue that I tried to make
Another
today.
case, there's another case today about
Oh,
the
I'm
check.
sorry.
Thank you. One witness at a time. Do you have any other witnesses?
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Everybody from the commission have a-
Can I make one quick point?
The other witness? Any final arguments?
If I may?
I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
I would hate to disappoint you, such a nice person. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, you have a duty to stop this. This has to be stopped. As you received the testimony from the Office of Secretary of State, yes, Mr. Obama filled out a piece of paper, and he gave you a check for $1,000. Are you going to sell your country for $1,000 that was given to you? No. You have a challenge. You have clear and undeniable evidence that the person who filled out this piece of paper saying that he is eligible lied. He committed fraud. He gave you, he fraudulently filled out those papers, and you have a duty in good faith to investigate. You have a challenge. You have to respond to this challenge. You have to come up with a decision that, at the very minimum, temporarily, Mr. Obama's name will not be on the ballot until and unless the committee and forensic document experts can examine the original birth certificate, can examine this Connecticut Social Security number that, according to Mr. Obama's own admission, his own papers that he posted online, he is using, which was never signed to him according to E-Verify and SSNDS. If you don't do it, you become complicit to forgery and elections fraud and Social Security fraud and treason against this nation. Thank you.
Just real brief. Just want to remind the commission that their particular jurisdiction with regards to this hearing comes from RSA 665:7. When you read it, it talks about making a decision whether or not a declaration of candidacy complies with law. You heard the testimony of Assistant Secretary of State Karen Ladd. She testified that the two statutes at issue with regards to how a person gets put on a presidential primary ballot are RSA 655:47 and RSA 655:48. She testified, and you have copies of the documents there, that Vice President Biden filed the form in person on behalf of the president. He also filed a $1,000 fee, and that the form was filled out. And in Ms. Ladd's opinion, there was nothing about either the check or the declaration of candidacy that did not comply with state law. And you'll note that the declaration of candidacy, as required by statute, requires the president to swear that he is qualified in the view of his constitution to be president. So you have all the information before you that this particular candidacy complies with state law, and that's all you need to make your decision. Thank you.
All right, that will close the testimony and argument in the hearing. I'd like to have the witnesses talk with the council for a minute and cross the hall.
I'll tell you later.
Tell me later.
You're going to talk,
You said
do it in the
sign
hall,
it, so I
please.
did.
All right, the commission has concern about its jurisdictional authority over various matters because our jurisdiction comes solely from statute. We are not a criminal investigatory body. We are not the Office of the Attorney General. We're not the Criminal Bureau. We're not a lot of things. We're not a federal court on the Constitution of the United States. So I've asked our counsel to remind us for the record on what our jurisdiction is in matters like this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The jurisdiction of the Ballot Law Commission is narrowly drawn by statute in Chapter 665 of the New Hampshire RSAs. Section 665:7 states that the Ballot Law Commission shall hear and determine disputes arising over whether nomination papers or declarations of candidacy filed with the Secretary of State conform with the law. The law is covered in RSA 655:47 and 48. And that statute says that the names of persons to be voted on as candidates for president and vice president at the presidential primary shall be printed on the ballots upon the filing of declarations of candidacies with the Secretary of State in the following form. And it also, in 655:48, also requires the payment of a $1,000 fee. So the question is, was the declaration of candidacy filed in this case in conformity with that statute?
Thank you for that explanation. Does any member of the commission want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Please.
I would move that the commission uphold the decision of Secretary of State Gardner to accept the declaration of the candidacy of Barack Obama on the ground that it is in conformity with RSA 655:47 and 48.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It's a vote.
Shame on you.